Hello, gents. Once again, a pleasure to welcome you to our Run and Drill Weekly podcast, in which we'll delve into specific topics related to energy sector, oil and gas, energy transition, and renewable energies. Our topic today is the challenges we are facing to expand the use of renewable energies. In today's talk, I will be more than glad to host a scientist who spent her life in research and training professionals in the energy sector. Her name is Alif Salim Khalif. She is a scientist and founder of Women in Smart Energy based in the UK. She is the first female author in the UK to publish a groundbreaking book on correlation between COVID-19 and energy transformation, titled The Renaissance of Smart Energy. Good afternoon, Celine. My pleasure hosting you in Rally Weekly Podcast.
Thank you so much. It is such an honor for me. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much. Let's start, Elaine. Let's start with part one, in which we'll go through some challenges we are facing to enlarge the use of renewables. The first COP took place in Berlin 1995. Based on a report of the International Energy Agency, total energy supply of oil increased by 32% from 1995 to 2022. Coal in global energy supplies increased by 84%. Tell me, Elaine, in which stage we have arrived in the energy transition?
Well, that's amazing question. As a person who dedicated her lifetime, more than 12 years for the COPs, COP20, 8, COP27, we travel all around the world. What I would like to say today is, of course, leadership and insufficient implementation of policy measures in that regard. So, for example, in Berlin, where the first COP summit took place in 1995, if you remember, Shuaib, the government sets ambitious climate goals every few years. However, by 2023, Germany still ranks among the top 10 coal consumers globally, as we discussed before. So, coal-fired plants such as the Lusatia plant in Germany continue their operations despite commitments to phase out by 2038. So the politicians, distracted by the economic pressures and also demand is very important. That's why they leave the policies as unfulfilled promises. On the other hand, for example, there are some underinvestment in renewable infrastructures. Let's go back to Italy, for example. In southern Italy's Calabria region, sunlight, over 2,500 hours per year, making it perfect for solar energy farms, big farms. So yet, the region's renewable energy investment is only a fraction of what it needs. So fossil fuel subsidies worldwide reach nearly $7 trillion annually, leaving solar projects waiting for financing. So, of course, the town continues relying on nearby oil-fired power plant and missing the potential of its abundant sunlight. So, underinvestment, it's a big issue in renewable infrastructure. Thirdly, energy demand growth outpacing clean energy deployment. For example, in India, energy demand has doubled since 2000, particularly in rural areas.
India is one of the biggest growing economies in the world.
Yes, that's one of the reasons, as you are right. A village, for example, in Maharashtra, in India, finally connects to the grid, but the government overwhelmed by the demand that grows every year, year by year, 5%. So that's why they start to open another coal plant to keep up this demand. So solar projects, of course, although increasing in India, provide only 12% of the country's electricity, so far behind the necessary pace to match these growing consumptions. In that regard, the increase in oil, as you indicated,
Yeah, consumption. Yeah.
the consumptions by 32% and by 84% indicates a mismatch between global climate ambitions,
Mhm.
which is pledged at first COP, and actual progress. So in that regard, a comprehensive strategy involving substantial investment and grid modernization as well, grid safety, combined with cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, everything, and also policy enforcement,
Mhm.
and also international cooperation, very, very essential.
Yeah,
Only
yeah.
by only
It,
by uh, only by addressing these systems,
it,
only by addressing these systematic issues can we can expect a meaningful and effective energy transition
yeah.
away from fossil fuels in the
Yeah,
upcoming.
exactly. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for shedding light on that point. And talking about the investment in renewable energies and how really the regulations have been taken by Europeans to, let's say, on carbon emissions, and they have issued many regulations and on the way to increase the production of renewable energies. So since the war, let me start with, we'll go to the second question. So, since the start of, since the war took place in Ukraine, we have remarked a global shift of the European strategy to lessen the reliance on fossils by launching Repower Europe and strengthening regulations on carbon emissions by issuing CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. Do
Mhm.
you think that CBAM policy can succeed amid the big reliance on fossils?
Well, in terms of CBAM, global cooperation and trade implications, very, very essential. Yes, CBAM can succeed, but only if Europe accelerates its transition from fossil fuels while fostering international cooperation and technological innovations. Without these critical elements, the policy may struggle to achieve its full impact amid existing fossil fuel dependency. Um, for CBAM to succeed, international cooperation is essential, as I highlighted before. If major trading partners, for example, China, United States, India, do not adopt similar carbon pricing measures or continue to produce goods with high emissions, it could create trade tensions and conflicts between the World Trade Organization. So there is also risk of retaliatory tariffs in terms of tariffs,
Mhm.
which could undermine the policy's objectives. And also there is taxation issue in that regard. So with global consensus and with global cooperation, yes,
Yeah,
CBA
yeah,
can.
taxation on carbon is participating in short terms, let's say, to increase the price of energy. And with the crisis Europeans are suffering now, I
Mhm.
think that's why they are not really obliging, they are not applying those regulations 100%. It's just they try to get out in a very smooth way from the energy crisis and the economic crisis they are living.
Yeah, true. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if we talk about the Europeans, I believe one of the big challenges Europeans are living today is the cost of energy, and especially of natural gas.
Mhm.
Natural gas is considered as an energy of transition, as
Yeah.
it's the cleanest among fossils. So let me remind everybody that five years ago, the megawatt hour of natural gas in TTF was like 18, 20 euros.
Mhm.
The
But
price now is 39 euros, so it's double.
yeah, it
So
is
it's
double.
exactly. So
Massive.
tell me, Elaine, do you think that this situation, double price of natural gas or other energy sources, could
Mhm.
be like a stimulus for the Europeans to invest more in renewables?
Exactly. Yes, of course. The significant increase in the price of natural gas is likely to act as a stimulus for Europeans to invest more in renewables.
Mhm,
7 to 8% increase is very huge in natural gas prices, combined with, of course, some geopolitical risk, climate policy pressures, and also advancement in renewable technologies. So that's why this, you know, uh, those are, pushing Europe towards more aggressive investment in renewables. Um, this situation highlights the urgency and economic
crisis,
uh,
yeah.
crisis,
Mhm,
and also economic, importance behind accelerating the transition to renewables, not only to meet climate targets, but also for, energy cost and also improving energy security and also energy independency.
mhm,
So, in summary, yes, Shape, the rising cost of natural gas is likely to act as a strong stimulus for Europeans
mhm.
as they seek more stable, sustainable, and locally sourced energy sources. But what we need for this, of course, more technologies. For example,
But
UK.
technologies are expensive and with extra cost, which will require an extra cost.
Yes, but it doesn't mean that we cannot create technologies, homegrown technologies. We need homegrown technologies because scientists are ready. Technology, we need to combine scientists and technology in the same pot to create this stimulus, actually. For example, offshore wind projects in North Sea, in the UK, for instance, have received significant funding from the government as they offer stable and long-term energy generation without the price volatility, as we see in the natural gas markets. So why not we can invest another, offshore wind projects in Scotland or Ireland or any part of, UK again one more time. So in that regard, we need homegrown projects in Europe and also globally.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, the big challenge of renewable energy is that from renewables we get only electricity, and this is a big problem. So if we can reach the level at least to replace the fossils we use in transportation or in the grid, electric grid, I think will be a great achievement. And honestly, it will participate a lot to lessen the impact of carbon emissions, carbon footprint on our planet. So I have to thank you so much for that clarification. Let me move now to China, and this is a headache of Europeans in these days. The EV industry is rising, incredibly rising in China. So China now is becoming a big player in EV industry and
Mhm.
is proposing cars with very competitive prices even to the European market. So we feel like the Europeans are admitting to shift their industry to Asia prior to reduce their carbon emissions. Elaine, tell me please, you are a scientist.
Hmm.
Uh, you don't think that it's a contradiction towards the global emissions, as we have only, at the end of the day, we have only one ozone layer, and all emissions are finally going to one place in this space. So if you reduce in emissions in one place, and another alternative is in increasing emissions, so what's the result? So it's up to you to clarify this.
Well, you raise very important points, and it is really, really difficult to deal with Chinese people.
Yeah.
Um, The shift of European EV manufacturing to Asia, particularly in China, uh, it is stemming from uh, chip technology, not cheap technology, but chip technology. Um, that's why it creates very complex situation when it comes to the global emissions and a broader goal of carbon reduction. This issue, Shoaib, highlights a contradiction in the global approach to climate change and, of course, emissions management. Um, yes, you are absolutely right, Shoaib. There is only one atmosphere, and emissions from any part of the world affect the global ozone layer and climate. If if manufacturing moves to regions where coal still dominates energy production, such as China, which relies on coal for around 60%, isn't it?
Yes,
60.
for electricity
Yeah.
generation, yeah.
Yes. So, if manufacturing moves to regions, where coal still dominates energy production, such as China, which is 60%, the overall benefit of EVs in terms of emissions and emission reduction is diminished. So the production process of EVs, including battery manufacturing, is very, very high energy intensive, and if powered by fossil fuels, releases significant emissions. So therefore, shifting production to countries with higher carbon footprints directly contradicts the intention of reducing global greenhouse gases. Um, it undermines the importance of the electrical vehicles as a sustainable alternative if their life cycle emissions, including manufacturing, are not minimized globally. So while local emission reductions are important, the ultimate objective should be a global approach that ensures the clean production of the electrical vehicles and also clean recycling of the electrical vehicles, because mainly the tires of the electrical vehicles are getting tired very easily, very quickly, because of the lithium batteries, as you know. So
The weight, because of the weight of the car.
yes, exactly. So how can we burn them? How can we recycle them? Of course, we are burning them in the third world countries. So we are enjoying the car in London, but we are poisoning third world countries. Is this a, green justice?
So
As a
emissions, yeah, emissions are at the end of the day they are going to the ozone layer, and I have to be. I want to highlight one thing very important.
yes,
In
please.
India, electricity generation is coming from coal at 80%. For China is 60%. So if you have an EV in India, you have the chance to plug, recharge your battery 80% from coal. And you have the chance to recharge your EV battery in China, 60%, you have the chance to recharge it from coal. And at these circumstances, I say that the diesel car is more environmentally friendly.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and even the car is painted in green. That paint is made from fossil energies, from oil. So
Mhm.
I think that we have, that's like slogans. Many politicians at the moment and policymakers in the world, they make big slogans and they use renewable energies as a slogans for elections or something else. But in reality, we are struggling a lot for energy transition. And I think it's time to take the think on one target is to reduce the global emissions, not the emissions of one country. But as we say, we have only one ozone layer. It's useless to reduce the emissions in your country and use those numbers in elections. That's it. And those emissions go to another country. So I think this is the message to the politicians and you and myself. I know that you may share your opinion with me, right?
Yes, exactly. As I highlighted before, It's a new phenomenon to say climate justice, ESG, green economies. But, we don't need this kind of posh titles or posh terms. We just need action. For
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, for
And
example,
the realistic speech.
exactly. In that regard, I have a policy actually. This is my humble suggestion. Not profit, but we should prioritize people first. More people stories, more people friendly, and what does it mean eco-friendly? Eco-friendly, it means people friendly. So in that regard, I think very high technologies are knocking the door for us to meet with us. We just need to use our brain in that regard. So oil-based and fossil-based economies uh, made us more than 100 years very, very in that regard lazy. So we need to focus on the solution because at the end of the day, we are living in under the one atmosphere. So our lovely nature needs very high caring from us for the future of our next generation, our kids.
Thank you very much. Very, very strong words from you. I really appreciate your speech and very, very touching words. So thank you very much.